I'm always excited when I get to try new products by Hoka. It's an innovative company that's been around for a little while now. They have kind of broken the mold when everyone was going towards the minimalist movement. They were doing the opposite and doing more maximalist kind of shoes, which was boasting a lot of comfort for runners, adding some squishiness and sponginess to each stride. And I'm really excited to talk about the Rocket X by Hoka. But anytime that you get into the conversation with these carbon plated shoes, it seems kind of gimmicky, so I really had to try it for myself. My first impression right out of the shoebox is that it's a cool looking shoe. It is light. The sole is stiff, as you would imagine from having a carbon plate embedded into it. But we have to break down some of the components. When we look at the upper, it's a nice breathable mesh material. If you're outside and running in water or in the rain, definitely expect some of that to come inside of the shoe. Towards the back of the shoe, I really enjoy the stiffness of the heel cup. While I was running with this shoe, I never felt like my foot really wanted to go in excessive supination or pronation because of it. I wouldn't say this is a supportive shoe, but I will say that the stiffness of that heel cup is probably going to keep you from rolling in even more. If you guys know anything about me, you know that I'm not a fan of flat laces, but these shoes have flat laces. However, I'm going to say that they're softer flat laces rather than a solid structure sort of like flat laces that maybe an Ultra shoe might have. The length of the laces are pretty solid. When you put them into a heel locking situation, there's plenty of lace still to get things tied straight. When I put these shoes on the scale, they weighed in at 7.8 ounces, and that's definitely something that you feel as soon as you put your foot inside, is the fact that they're super light. They feel really true to size. But you also have to look at the sole anytime that we see kind of a lightweight shoe like this, and we see that there's not a ton of rubber on the bottom, and that's really something that's going to add a lot of weight, is the kind of rubber and the thickness of the rubber that you have on there. But of course, with the weight, you really can't gloss over the fact of having that really breathable mesh on the upper rather than some heavier knit material that some other shoes have. One aspect of running shoes that can get glossed over pretty easily, but I think is pretty important as far as safety is concerned, is the amount of reflective material on running shoes. This particular shoe only has it in one spot, however, it's a really big area in the posterior aspect of the shoe, so there's a lot of surface area for someone to see you while you're running at night, but unfortunately nothing on the sides or in the front. Most of the time I like to do two different tests. I like to do a treadmill test and I like to do an outside test. Treadmill test, it's a controlled environment, and I thought it felt fine. I thought it felt springy, but unfortunately, because of the mechanism on the treadmill, it kind of moves everything posterior, so any sort of toe off, you're not gonna get a whole lot of it. So with that, I really can't say that having a carbon plate in this shoe really helped me on the treadmill. However, outside, I definitely felt lighter, I felt faster. At 7.8 ounces, it's definitely going to be light. There's not a whole lot of extra added weight in the sole or in the upper that's really gonna drag you down like some other shoes that might get into the 10 and the 11 ounce range. The one problem that I did notice, both on the treadmill and outside, is my heel was slipping in the back with every single running step that I took. So, no problem. So I just did a little heel locking maneuver with the laces that fixed the problem, and then I felt snug, and that was no problem. And the laces were long enough to do that. Some other shoes don't really give you the allotted material to do that comfortably. These shoes definitely did. I can't say objectively that I was faster in these shoes. I guess I didn't do a time trial or anything like that just to kind of compare times, but you know, like the old saying goes that if you feel fast, you will be fast. To give you my overall impression from running both on the treadmill as well as outside with this particular shoe, I would say I like it. I really like the fact that my foot never felt suffocated because of the breathable mesh upper. I really like the springiness that carbon sole gives to the sole. I really can't say that this would do favorable on like a trail or an off-road scenario, but I definitely thought it was responsive on any sort of flat, hard packed surface. So if it's on the road or on the track, any sort of short distance race, I think that could be fine. Now, would I recommend this to any of my patients? I think if they had a painful raging bunion, I'd probably say no, just because despite the upper being a breathable mesh material, it's not very stretchy. So I think people might have a little bit of complication with that, especially if their foot might be a little wider in that regard. I would also say no if they had a lot of heavy pronation where they kind of came on the insides of their feet. Now you also might ask, would you want to put some sort of insert in here? There's not a ton of extra room in this shoe, and especially having that carbon plate in there, I think having some sort of extra insert on the inside, I think it might dampen some of that springiness that you'll feel. So I think that might negate some of the responsiveness that you're going to get with this shoe if you added something like that. And that about does it for the review of the Rocket X by Hoka. So please leave me a comment if you tried this shoe, and definitely stick around. I have more videos you can watch, and we'll see you guys on the other side.